Hey everybody. Um, did you see that video of that woman on freaking out on the plane, like thinking she's that the guy in the back isn't real? And I have to say, like, I think she saw him or it for what it was. I believe her. I really do. And some people are like, oh, there was a lot of people that thought she was onto something as well in the comments. And there were a lot of people, of course, that were like, oh, she's just drunk or mixing medication or whatever. The plane was fine, thus proving that she's just like, this crazy lady. But I think that the plane was fine because she flipped out. Who knows what would have happened if she hadn't said anything. And, it's weird. I would have never been inclined to believe. I would have been one of those people that just thought she was like a crazy lady, but not anymore, not anymore. It's like I've seen too much, and I think we're all like starting to see things and put the pieces together, like a lot of us. And I used to think I was always a seeker, and like a seeker of knowledge and the truth and life and experiences and just like more, and I always like wanted to go deeper with everything. But it's weird when you actually start to get to see certain things, like supernatural things, or I don't know, have these experiences. It's almost like even when it's happening in real time in front of you, it's almost hard to comprehend and to believe what's happening. It's hard to believe it yourself, I've found, even when it's happening. um so I don't know, just in 2023, it's not like it was in the past. I think shit is being revealed, and I think the veil is thinning. I really do. But I don't know, I was walking the dog today, and I had a really good walk. And I'm just going to try. I say this all the time. This is like where I'm at. I'm just trying to not worry um about if something horrific is going to happen. And you can feel it in the air. You can feel things are shifting, on a global scale. And I think the best thing that all of us can do who are, you know, in the same boat that I am, which is like awake and an awakening to our power and to like our mission as humans on the planet right now, which is like to stand fully in our autonomy, take charge of our lives, and contribute from that place, from that empowered place of self love and, just being positivity and leveling up with the planet, because like it's like an all hands on deck situation. When the Matrix first came out, I think I was 14 or 15 when the first Matrix movie came out. And I thought it was like a work of fiction, and now it's like, man, that was like, I think that's how it is. And I've always been a person to not want to, you know, I've always been like a red pill person, but it's like the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And we all as humans have a lot of power, and knowledge is powerful, and we have this knowledge, in the palm, literally in the palm of our hand. um Knowledge is powerful. Knowledge is not power. Wisdom is power. And wisdom is, knowledge that has been digested and comprehended and understood, and like embodied knowledge is wisdom, and that's where the power lies. And that's where I'm trying to like walk through the earth, with this like empowered, wise, compassionate autonomy. And that's what they are afraid of. They're afraid of us being healthy, physically, mentally, and spiritually, you know. And if we are autonomous beings, we are working in that direction of health goals, physical, mental, and spiritual health goals. And capital T, they do not want that at all. I don't know why I have been getting like notifications on YouTube, like for Eugenia Cooney, the woman who, or she's a man. It's sad, man. It's really sad. She clearly has a serious eating disorder, and the people in the comments, most of the comments that I saw were like, talking about that she is clearly unwell. But there were a disturbing amount of comments that were like, oh my God, love you, girl, love your outfit, you're so beautiful, oh my God, you're so sweet. I'm like, this is a grown-ass woman who's acting like a small little girl who is like literally skin and bones, and clearly is suffering. And YouTube is like peddling this shit because, it's like these corporations are just nasty, man. They really are. Um, it's and their food too. I have been getting. I said in a couple videos ago, maybe the last one. I don't know. I was like really feeling some type of way with my last video, but I mentioned like I'm really trying to take my health goals to the next level and actually just be buckled down with eating nourishing foods and not having so many like cheat days, and get a little bit more serious about getting in great shape and getting really healthy. And since I've been holding myself accountable and really trying to take my physical health to the next level, when I have messed up and eaten like sugary cereal, I got so sick. I literally, my body rejected it. I threw up 2 times. Like it was horrible. It felt like food poisoning, but it wasn't. And it was because I was just like, I had inundated with my body with all this sugar. I had 2 like bowls of this s'more cereal, and I got so physically sick. I'm like, man, that's a breakfast like that's marketed for kids, And when I got sober, it was always so nerve wracking, the idea of even thinking about sobriety when I was in active addiction, because I had such a fear of gaining sobriety weight, which I did do for the first year. I gained, God, probably about 60 pounds or so. In that first, I don't know, in 2020, I started turning my health around, but I gained a significant amount of weight. And a lot of women in active addiction have that fear of weight gain. And it was a common thought, and it was my thought, that I would rather be on hard drugs, on IV drugs, and thin or skinny versus be like morbidly obese and sober. And even in jail, a lot of women say that too, like, oh, I got to get back out and back on pills just so I can lose this weight. It's crazy how our food has been turned into a pastime. Eating's been turned into a pastime, and like Happy Meals and everything. And like, this is like the food, the additives, the highly processed foods, fast foods aren't any good for you. That's like old news, but it kind of goes back to knowledge versus wisdom. I had that knowledge. We all have had knowledge about certain things, like what food is good for you and what is not, about the system and how poisonous it is, and how it likes to keep us in this basically like mental and spiritual slaves, except we allow ourselves to be enslaved. We kind of know this on a fundamental level, and even when we didn't know it, it's like you could feel when I was going along with it, it felt wrong. Even when I was like in high school, and I was first starting to come into my own, and just during adolescence, and think about, like, world affairs, current events, politics. I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. But I guess, I remember in being in grade school, and when they told us, like, no one lives in Antarctica, and it was like, why? Well, it's too cold. And it's like, what? That felt in my soul wrong. I think I was like in fifth grade, when it's like, nobody lives there, it's too cold. And that did not feel right, for example. But I didn't know enough to actually question it and be like, there's some fuckery going on there, to say the very least. That's deception. There's more to it. I don't know what. It's too cold. People live all over the world in all kinds of climates, and if there wasn't something to it, Jesus Christ, the United States, so many countries would have been mining the shit out of Antarctica for the oil. We can't, humans, we have junked up outer space with our fucking space gunk and our dead satellites and just all this space debris. We have literally, not we, the fucking elites that are trying to tell us about ourselves and are killing the environment, these pro-war pieces of shit. They've polluted outer space, but they're not touching Antarctica because it's too cold. Okay. Like, something's amiss. And, like, the food is poisoned, and just because it's the narrative and it's what's on the nightly news doesn't make it, like, gospel truth. It's like, we know these things and we can feel it, but we just didn't know what to do with that knowledge. We didn't know how to turn it into wisdom, or really where to start. And now that, just with the technology, so much time has passed, and I think it's just like too many people have been struggling for too long. We've believed one too many politicians' lies. It's just a lot of stuff has culminated to 2023. Of course, 2020 and beyond, it's just like, people's eyes are opening, and it's like, we cannot go back. We can't act like we don't know what we know, and we can't act like we don't. All the ignorance is willful at this point, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So what I'm trying to do with everything, with this knowledge, is turn it into wisdom, just by focusing on, like I said, autonomy, just like being myself, just being a kick-ass person. And, really, like, asking myself, like, what's stopping me from getting in the best shape of my life? I've always had self-esteem issues. I've always had problems with my mind, and getting stuck in my head and stuck in my thoughts. I know focusing on my physical health is a great way to get out of mental turmoil, and vice versa, in a lot of ways. But so what's really stopping me, like, now at this point in my life, from getting in great shape, from really just loving myself, and really just going there, and just, like I said in the other video, just like being this amazing woman that I know I am. And of course it's fear, but I'm working on that. Fear's always there, but we don't have to be ruled by it. And before, it was like, well, I'm afraid, so let me just keep my mouth shut and keep going along with it, and keep, like, minimizing myself, to try to, like, I don't know. And that it doesn't work. It didn't work. And this is just like an all hands on deck situation, and the point of life is to live. It is. And if something horrific is going to happen, if it's going to be like a war, and they're like peddling this alien narrative for some reason, I do feel like maybe it's just a distraction or a diversion. And maybe there's like a bigger plan to it with the deception, but it's being pushed for some reason. A lot of all these narratives really are being pushed for a reason, but I just cannot take myself anymore from the outside in. I've had to flip it inside out, and that goes with the direction of my life and my autonomy and with my moral compass too. I when I wash my hands of modern day politics, I know it didn't feel good to me to like do that whole like walk away campaign or anything like that, because I don't want to like if I wanted to be on the party that supports like war and for-profit prisons and big pharma and the military industrial complex and is anti-environment, then I would like stay a Democrat. And that's the problem. Like both political parties are just in total alignment on the worst of humanity. So, I really just had to wash my hands of politicians and say, hey, you know what? I'm anti-war, for example. I'm anti-war, and that has to be the way I see it without exception. It's not like, oh well, wait a second, this country needs our help. No, I'm it's not heartless. It's heartless and ignorant to say, oh well, I'm actually pro-war because here's the reason why I'm not a hypocrite. Everybody has a reason why they're not a hypocrite. But if there is an exception to I'm anti-war, but here's the exception, then guess what? You're a pro-war hypocrite. I mean, man, we have to stop supporting, even if it's just like emotionally and like we know it for ourselves. Like, hey, I'm not supporting this fucking war machine one more second. The war, like I said, it's a spiritual war. It always has been, but like, the lines have been drawn. It's obvious now. It's a spiritual war. And all the money that we've sent overseas with just like the latest war, we could have ended homelessness. We could have ended mental health crises, childhood hunger in America. We could have ended all of these wars, at home like 2-3 times over. It's ridiculous. Just the millions, the billions, the trillions that we're going to end up sending overseas, and for what? To keep the war going? I mean, come on, man. We have got it. If you're for the environment, you have to be against war. If you're anti-war, you know, you just have to like make a hard stand and like know who you're supporting. This is what I had to do for myself, and I cannot support these fake ass war pig politicians. And that's what they are. They don't care about humanity. We could have ended hunger, everything, every social justice or social injustice. It could have been ended years ago, administrations ago, and they choose not to. And it's like the war was never on. It was never a war on drugs or a war on poverty or a war on homelessness. It was always against the people, a war on drug addicts, a war on the homeless, a war on the impoverished. And when I was homeless, it was actually for a year. Thank God, it was just for that 1 year of my life. But when I happened to be homeless when Trump was elected, and I remember he scared me to death. I was homeless. My addiction was worse than it had ever been, and I never could have imagined it would have been. And here came this like, just this like misogynistic loudmouth, not politician talking about fake news. And I thought, oh my God, he's trying to turn the people against, these beacons of journalistic integrity, and I thought, the New York Times, for example, that like they are truly like an icon of journalistic integrity. And I mean, I didn't even know what I didn't know. Like I said in my other video, I didn't know myself, so I couldn't know know that my ignorance made me an enemy of myself in every way, And now, like, my eyes have been open and I just can't close them back. So the big, and it's scary. It is scary. But when I like walk the dog, when I go outside, when I put my feet on the grass, when I just like close my eyes and, just try to take a few deep breaths and truly have gratitude for life, for this moment, for my life in this moment, for everything I've lived through, um, it's taken so much strength and resilience and strength of character to get to where I am, a place of sobriety and mental health and having my priorities straight. It's no small feat. And when I practice like gratitude and intent and focus on, like I said, my mind, body, and spirit, my autonomy, self-love, there is so much to be grateful for, And if something horrific is going to happen, then it's going to happen regardless. At least I can say that I tried, that I was part of the solution, because I did not spend one more seconds of my life here on earth playing it small or wasting my time or being ungrateful or acting like, I didn't have agency over myself. Um, so that's just where my head's at tonight. So y'all have a good night.